All right, welcome to the fourth and final lecture of the gear module. It's Friday night, almost 11 o'clock, and that means it's time for the Friday Fabulosos, which is a fellowship I play in on Friday nights, and it's going to be my way of introducing you to the other big part of the meaning of gear, which is what I call poly-heroism. That is, gear is an indicator in both the Iliad and in especially the massively multiplayer online role-playing game of the differences between the heroes and the way that those differences enable them to fulfill different functions and ultimately provide different sorts of identifications to the audience of Epic and the player of the massively multiplayer online role-playing game. So I'm going to be logging in with my captain, Kurenauer, who is my character in this Fabuloso fellowship. He's a captain, and that means he is a buffer, and his gear is all set up so that he can do as much buffing as possible. Buffing is improving the stats of everybody else in the fellowship as well as himself, and that's what you're going to see me do. I'm going to point out various parts of my gear that are like that. I'm also going to point out the various roles of some other people in the fellowship, especially the tank, who is the person who absorbs all of the damage, and the champion, who is the person who does most of the damage. Now, what I'm going to be saying is that the way that the gear interact with those roles, the way that that allows them the chance to get the necessary gear to fulfill their function in the fellowship, all of that is part of the meaning of the gear. And I'm going to leave implicit the way that that is an indicator also in the Iliad. And I want to just call attention to the fact that Achilles needs his shield and the rest of his epic gear in order to get back on the battlefield and fulfill his function as, well, the champion, the maximum DPS, damage per second guy. Okay, so I'm going to log in now, and I'll be back in a moment. Here's Kurenauer in Gabelshathor, a little dwarf settlement in Angmar, and I'm waiting for the rest of the Fabulosos to show up. Down in the lower right, you'll see the chat, and it's there in part that I'll be conversing with the fellowship, but you will also probably hear me conversing over voice chat. As you can see, I have donned my headset, which allows me to communicate with the rest of the Fabulosos. And Reeswolf, the champion of the fellowship, has just shown up. I'm going to bow to him. The rest of the fellowship should be along shortly. So the fellowship is beginning to gather. This is the tank, Ted Tank, the champion you know, Reeswolf, and you can see that the fellows are lined up here on the left side. Let's take a look at my character journal. You can see my gear here. Above all, you can see my halberd, which is a particular weapon of a captain, with 26.9 DPS, but also with plus 28 agility, plus 28 vitality, plus 82 maximum power, and plus 390 parry rating. The power especially is good for a captain because he needs that to do his buffing. And most of all, here is my master standard of war, and you'll see me use that. This is what it'll look like. I'll also use it in battle. When I put that down there, all of my fellows are going to do better in the battle because of it. This was this Master Standard of War was something I bought in the auction house. It makes plus 10% melee damage and plus 10% maximum morale for my fellowship. It's the key part of my gear as a captain. Okay, I will now inspect our tank. And when I inspect him, I can see his gear. He has a crossbow here with lots of DPS. His main weapon is an ancient... no, that's not his main weapon. His main weapon is a mirrored ancient steel mace, which is very impressive, 27.5 DPS, but above all, plus 15 might and plus 90 maximum morale. His job is to have a lot of morale so that he doesn't get defeated, and to have a lot of might so that he can do as much DPS as he can. Being a tank, being a guardian, which is the actual name of this class, he's never going to do a lot of damage because he doesn't have the skills for it, but he can absorb a lot of damage and at the same time do as much damage as possible. So the key here is his might and his morale. You can also see that his armor is particularly well suited to what he does. This is called Survivor's Armor, adds to his might, plus 30 might, and also plus 30 vitality, and that in turn adds to his morale and lets him stay alive longer. So you can see that his gear is suited for what he does, while my gear is suited for what I do. And in the next segment, we're going to show us doing that, so that you can get an appreciation for how the gear interacts with the actual playing of the game, in the way that Achilles' gear interacts with the telling of the epic, which is the equivalent for epic of gameplay. Our hunter has now arrived, and he's crying. If we inspect him, we can see that his gear is set up to do a great deal of damage, 26.3 DPS, and his skills are all set up for damage per second in an even more serious way than the champion. He is what's called a nuker, and so he does even more damage, and does not have quite as many hit points, can't take as much damage as the tank can, as the champion can. Right. And here is the whole group, more or less, riding. We're riding out to go defeat some drakes, an old-fashioned word for dragon, which of course comes from the Greek. Okay, so here we are with some drakes, and you'll see us run in and do our functions. I'll try to narrate as we go. Alright, all set. See, I'm putting my banner down now to help everybody out. Now I'm going to run in. I do some DPS. I'm also marking this drake so that everybody else can get some good critical hits on him. The green you see is coming from our minstrel. I have to pull back so you can see what our minstrel is doing. Our hunter is shooting from afar. I wonder where the minstrel is, but the green means he's killing us and we just killed the drake. Alright, let's get another take of that if we could. Well, I finally just got David on the shot there. That's some very nice artwork right there. Very photogenic. Yeah. Alright, that's a wrap. Thank you very much.